I'm Ellie from the Dark Imp, helping parents to reclaim family time by playing board games together. Today we're going to look at 3 cooperative games. Cooperative games are games that you play as a team, all players working together to try and beat the game. So here are 3 that you might like to try. First of all, Fuji. In Fuji, you are players trying to escape from an erupting volcano. You win if everybody manages to escape, and you lose if any player is submerged in the lava flow. So each time the game is set up differently. It comes with lots of different cards. You take one of these cards which shows the setup, and so you put the different tiles in the right places. There are all these different tiles which form the route that you have to take away from the volcano, and you'll shuffle them up and place them out randomly in the setup as shown on the tile. You'll place the volcano in the right place, and then some of the cards are safe cards, so these are yellow. So if you manage to get to these, then you're safe, but everybody has to get to those. So you set up, and then you give each player a character. So for example, this one is called Lady Livingston. She's the green character. She comes with a green character meeple and a little destination marker. She also gets a set of her own dice. Everybody starts in the same location, and the idea is that you have to try and move, but you can only communicate in a limited fashion. And you're going to be rolling your own dice behind a screen. So this isn't a great game to play if you've got people that might like to cheat, because it relies on honesty. You're going to be rolling your dice behind the screen, and you're going to take actions in these different phases. So you first of all start with rolling, then you have a discussion, but you're not allowed to say what you've got on your dice. That's really important. And you decide who's going to try and move where. So on these different tiles, you have a range of movement that you're allowed, and different characters have different abilities. Now, where have I put that character card? There's the character, and each player will also have a sort of skill card. Here we are. This one's the equipment manager. It shows you how many dice you have. Oops, there we go, 6 dice. Shows you how much equipment you start with. Equipment cards give you special bonuses and allow you to do different things. And it tells you what your special power is. So different players have different number of dice and are allowed to move in different ways. So you all look at the cards that are coming up in the route, and you decide where you're going to try and get to. This indicates where you currently are, and this indicates where you're trying to get to. So you have a discussion and work out who's going to try and go where. Each card shows you the dice requirements on it, and this is probably the trickiest thing to get your head around. But each card says, for example, this one says, if you have the highest total of blue and red dice that are, I think that's the even symbol, that are even, then you can go to this card. So you have to look at your dice, look at the different cards that are possibles. For example, this one just says the highest total of blue and reds. This one says the highest total of 1s and 2s. This one is the highest of all the odd values of yellow, blue, and red. So you're going to look at the dice throws and think which one you might be able to get to. And you can't say what you've got, but you have to try and work out where you're going to go and then where other people are going to go. And if other people want to go on things you know you have a high score for, that can be difficult. So you try and discourage them without saying what you've got on your dice. And then, so that's the discussion phase and working out where you're going to. Some of your equipment can be used in that stage. So there are special equipment cards that give you bonuses. Let's see if I can find any. Here we are. This one's a machete. That's used in a different phase, actually. That is as well. That's tape. So there's an extra phase here where you have another discussion, and you can use some more some more equipment. This one, for example, allows you to change any number of 1s to 6s. So some equipment can be used here and some can be used here in phase 4. In phase 3, you can't talk, but some players are going to re-roll their dice, or some of their dice. Phase 4, you have another discussion, and some people might then decide to play equipment. And then in phase 5, you reveal your dice and you work out who has managed to get to their destination. So to be successful, you have to have rolled more of your requirement than anyone else. And then you take some stamina damage. So there's a board that you're all going along, and you have another one of these markers. And each time you take damage, so you start off in good health, and then as you try and run away from this volcano, you get more and more tired and exhausted, and eventually you get to death if you get that far before you win. And depending on whether you were successful or not, you'll take less damage. So if you were successful, you'll take less damage than the people who weren't successful. When you get to these symbols, you'll take a wound, and the wounds look like this, and they all have a penalty on them. So this one means that you're going to have to get rid of one of your dice, so you can throw fewer dice, which isn't great. So you're trying to make sure everybody gets away from the volcano before you die. And the final phase is when the volcano erupts. So on that phase, where are my volcano cards? Here they are. So whatever cards are next to the volcano, right next to the volcano, I've lost the volcano now, they get turned, so they're burning. So if you are on this card when it's turned over, you die. You've lost. So you're trying to run away from the volcano. There are 2 extra volcanic eruption phases that happen when people tread on certain tiles. There are extra equipment that you can take when you stand on certain tiles, and you can change the difficulty of the game. So there's 4 different difficulty options, which mean that you take different amounts of stamina damage when you're successful or unsuccessful, and that is designed to help you be more successful at winning the game. It's actually really difficult. It's a good game, but it's quite difficult to win. Fuji. Okay, second, this is just an example. This is Exit the Game, The Abandoned Cabin. There are lots of different games in the Exit range. This is just one of them. There are also lots of different kinds of ranges that do the same sorts of things. So this is an escape room in a box. And you work together. You can do it on your own as a single player, but you can work together with your whole family, up to 6 people, possibly more. It says 1 to 6 on the box, but I think you could do it with more if you want to. The idea is that you have this sort of old book. You're in an abandoned cabin and you find an old book, and you open it up, and it gives you some information. I'm not going to tell you loads about this because it will spoil it. But then you get things like this. So you see the room, and you can see that there are various things that are locked in the room. For example, this safe is locked, and it has a symbol next to it. And what you try to do as you go through the game is to work out the clues to unlock these symbols. So, you've got clues, you've got things you can work on in the book, different puzzles you can work on. I won't show you them all. And at various times you're going to be able to unlock different things. So if we decided that we could unlock that safe which we saw, which had this symbol, we might get a 3-digit number, or we might get a colour code. And so you're going to spin this wheel according to the numbers and all the colours that you think relate to this thing. So you're going to solve the clue. And then when you've got it positioned correctly, a number will be revealed in the centre. This says 24. And then you will look at answer card 24. That comes with a deck of answer cards. You'll look at number 24 and you'll see if you were right or wrong. Now, some of the answer cards say, sorry, no, that wasn't right. And some of the answer cards, and I won't show you this close up, say, yes, you've managed to get through this thing. Here's some more information. Here's the next phase. Here's a riddle card that you can access. So there's all these different riddle cards. And at different points you're going to be, it's going to say, right, you can have a look at riddle card J, for example. And it'll give you something that will be useful for you to carry on the back. If you get really stuck on any of the clues, for example, that one we were looking at, that's safe, where's that? You match, here we go, you match up the symbol, you look at first clue and it'll give you some information. And I won't turn it round. If you can't get the first clue, you can look at the second clue. If you really can't get it, you can look at the solution. And that helps you to progress, but you do take a penalty, a time penalty, if you need to use those clue cards. At the end of the game, you see how long it's taken you, so it's real time, you work as fast as you can, and then it tells you whether you've won or not. The aim is to try and get out within 60 minutes, as all of these different exit rooms are usually 60 minutes, but this is a really nice one, Exit the Abandoned Cabin. And finally, let's look at a classic cooperative game, probably the best known of all the co-ops, Pandemic. In Pandemic, you and your friends or family are a team of experts who are trying to fight the spread of a global epidemic, or actually 4 different diseases, to stop them becoming a pandemic. So you've got this sort of world board. Here we are. And you all start in Atlanta, which is where your research centre is, and you put a little research centre on it, one like this, and all of your characters start there. Now, your character colours relate to the different cards that you might have. So, oh dear, that didn't go very well. So you might, for example, be the scientist, and that's the white pawn. So the scientist has a special power. The scientist can discover diseases to the different, discover cures to the different diseases using fewer cards. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, across the board, you're going to put out diseases. So there's 4 different kinds of diseases. They come with different disease cubes. And you're going to turn up cards which tell you where the outbreaks are, where the diseases are. And as you go through the game, your different characters, on their turn, they're going to take new cards and they're going to try and cure these diseases. As you go through the game, more diseases will break out in different places, and you're trying to manage the control of the spread of the disease, to cure and also to gain these different city cards, so that if you've got a certain number of these, it's 5 for most characters, 4 for the scientist, then you can go to a research centre and cure that disease. So if you have 4, if you're the scientist, blue cards, you can go to a research centre and cure the blue disease. Once the disease is cured, you still want to try and eradicate it if you can, because then there's no new outbreaks. Outbreaks happen quite often, and you need to make sure that, well, I suppose new disease happens quite often, and you need to make sure that at any time there's no more than 3 disease cubes on a city. As soon as there's a 4th one that you try and put there, it's going to outbreak into the cities that border it. And every time you get an outbreak, you go up 1 on the outbreak track. And if you get towards the end of the outbreak track, it's going to be a sad demise for you and your group, because it's going to create a pandemic. So here's the outbreak track here. And if you get down to 8 outbreaks, you lose. As you go through the game, you're going to infect more cities each turn. So it starts with infecting 2 cities, and then every time there's a pandemic, it's not a pandemic, an epidemic. So sometimes you turn up these cards and you infect more cities. The infection rate increases and you're going to start infecting more cities. And so it all becomes much more critical. So there's other characters that do different things. The medic can cure things more quickly. The dispatcher can send other people in different places. The operations manager can build new research centres much more easily. And the characters are going to be travelling around the map using the cards that they have. So they need these to cure diseases, but they also need these to move. So each character has 4 actions in a turn, and those actions can be to make one move or to charter a flight, and you discard the card that you have with that city on, or to build a new research centre station, for example. And so you're always discussing what each person's going to do. I like playing this with all the cards face up. It doesn't say to do that in the rules, but I quite like that. It's also a really good one-player game. You can be all the different characters yourself and work through it as a puzzle. But it's a great cooperative. It's a slightly more complicated game, but one of the wonderful things about it is that because you can play with the cards face up, you can have quite young children who are taking on a character and learning about the game as they go along. So you can help them because it's cooperative.